Christine, we're having a problem hearing you.
Oh, thanks, Cindy. Sorry, I was on mute. Welcome to the COVID313 Coalition for Families and Students. We're so grateful to be back with you again today. I'm Christine Bell, honored to serve as the Executive Director of Urban Neighborhood Initiatives and a real proud member of this coalition, and most importantly, a mother of 3 wonderful children. We're excited for our show today. We are learning with you and we want to hear from you. So please make sure you chat your comments in the Facebook chat. And Amy and Brooke, I believe, are there ready to hear from you. So why don't you just make sure they're on top of it and let us know how you are celebrating Juneteenth this Saturday. And if you don't know, we do have some guests that are going to be here, and they have, I think, lots of ideas for you. Like always, we're translating the town hall to Spanish and ASL, so we want to give folks time to get to the right line and get comfortable. Ophelia, will you please give us the details on how to listen to Spanish interpretation?
Sí, si gustas ver este video en español, por favor, en los comentarios del chat, vamos a estar ahí en Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation. También puedes ir a nuestra página a vernos en vivo. Y hoy la traducción sería hecha por la señora Gloria Rosas y Cristina Ruiz Manzón.
Thank you so much, Ophelia, and thank you, Christina and Gloria, for being with us each week. And then I'd like to invite Julie to please share the ASL the instructions for ASL interpretation. Thank you so much, Julie. It's so nice to have you with us again today. Stay with us for the next 60 minutes so you can stay informed and empowered. We have a great lineup of folks here today to share their expertise with you. But again, this is time for you to ask questions and share your comments. So you can put your questions or comments in the Facebook chat. Like I said, Brooke and Amy are there waiting to hear from you. We'll have a question and answer time after most segments. If we can't get the answers to your questions today, we're committed to getting you the answers by early next week. All questions with their answers will be posted on onedetroitpbs.org. For our guests with us today, please remember to speak slowly for our translators. They want to make sure that they're translating the very important information that you are sharing correctly. Remember to turn off your camera when you're not speaking to ensure that our ASL interpreter can be seen, and please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Terry Whitfield is our amazing timekeeper, and he's with us here today. So also keep your eye on the chat. He will chat you your remaining time. If you go over, myself, Jametta, or Rajeshri will come onto the screen and gently remind you to wrap up. And kicking us off today is my good friend, Miss Jametta Lilly. Jametta?
Thank you, Christine. And this is really a pretty phenomenal day, is it not? I am joyful to be here with you. My name is Jametta Lilly. I am blessed to serve as the CEO of the Detroit Parent Network, a proud Detroiter, mom and nana of 2 awesome grandchildren in Dallas, Texas, and a wonderful advocate for the culture and information and power that we are going to hear from our cultural icons today. So we again have a really special program, and we're going to jump right into it. So the reality is, if you have not heard, something phenomenal happened yesterday. And that is that Juneteenth was acknowledged and passed as a national holiday. And we're going to have the opportunity to hear two of our cultural icons talk about this. One of them is particularly special from an institution that is near and dear to my heart. And that is the Detroit Museum of African American History, or specifically the Charles Wright Museum of African American History, that I am blessed to be the child of the first vice president of the museum when it first began. But now our museum has bloomed into something phenomenal, not only for Detroit, but for the whole nation and the world. And so we're really pleased to ask Edward Foxworth if he would come on screen and talk to us about this amazing piece that you were already planning to help us celebrate anyway, before our Congress got a hold of it and knew that they needed to do what they did. Ed, welcome. And tell us a little bit about yourself and the role that you have there at the Charles Wright Museum.
Absolutely happy to be here. Thank you so very much. I appreciate the introduction of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. And, you know, we call ourselves the First Voice Institution. And I've been here with the museum for 3.5 years. I came out of media where I worked with CBS and done some radio, some speaking, and written a couple books. And so I really worked in that whole marketing and broadcast media space, but have been with the museum now, both as Director of Education Department and now as the Director of External Affairs. My job primarily is to market the institution and all the fun, fantastic programs, events, exhibits that we have. Right now, we're really excited because we've got Mario Moore's enshrined presence and preservation inside that we encourage people to really come by and look. It's going to be here for a short period of time, so we hope that people will do that they'll go to theright.org and schedule their timed admission. As it relates to Juneteenth, man, we could not be more excited. Last year, we partnered with the city of Detroit to bring storytelling and history and some drumming downtown in front of the spirit of Detroit. And that was a fantastic event and activity. And then this year, we've expanded on it. And I see you have our board member, Rochelle Riley, who's on, and we've worked closely with her to put on this year a treasure hunt. A citywide treasure hunt. So I'm sure I don't want to steal her thunder. She's probably going to talk more about that. But you know, on the 17th, tomorrow, we are excited to be able to make sure that we have, and I said 17th tomorrow, is today. The 17th, we have partnered with 9 other museums across the country, from Houston, from Charlotte, North Carolina, from South Carolina, and from Philadelphia, just to name a few, to put together spoken word. We put together dramatic performances. We've also put together, you know, some educational components that will inform people, not just African Americans or people of color, but inform people about what Juneteenth is and what it stood for. And so when people go in there and watch this on our website, theright.org, they will see a great collaboration of 10 African-American institutions that we are excited to be part of. Last year, we only had 5 or 6. And so this year, we almost doubled. But then on the 18th, tomorrow, we're going to have a movie screening of The Concrete Cowboy down at Campus Marshes, 7 p.m. And Yolanda Jack is the person who's been the project lead on all of this. And so she's a museum educator and has done a fantastic job in partnering with the Downtown Detroit Partnership to pull this screening of this film together. We have also some upcoming movies. Some upcoming movies. What do you call them? Trailers. That's what they are.
Oh, trailers. Yeah. Okay, great. They'll be shown at Campus Marshes as well.
Of the movie Respect with Jennifer Hudson.
Yes.
Showcasing as Aretha Franklin. So that's going to be shown. And then Questlove has a new movie called Summer of Soul that is also going to be shown down there. So people are invited to come out. We're hoping the weather's going to cooperate. at 7 o'clock p.m. We'll do some pouring of libations. We got a welcome from our CEO, Neil Barclay. And we're just gonna have a good time. And then last but not least, on Saturday, we'll be over partnering with the Juneteenth Jubilee Stroll on the Avenue of Fashion on Livernois. So we're gonna talk about supporting Black-owned businesses, community engagement, education. So we'll have African drummers out there and storytelling and spoken word. It's just gonna be a fun day on Saturday. And that happens starting at 12 noon. So we just encourage people to really join in. And as you mentioned at the top, yes, the federal government and people across the country are acknowledging Juneteenth and becoming much more aware. And we want to continue that commemoration. We have some more work to do because we want to make sure that people understand, what do you do on Juneteenth? How do you celebrate Juneteenth? It's not just another paid day off, opportunity to commemorate what our ancestors have endured.
Yeah, so I so appreciate you ending up on that last sentence, what our ancestors endured. But is it not so ironic that the very same people, so many of the senators, and yes, other people who have a different perspective perhaps than you and I, the same people who would say yes to Juneteenth to celebrate a wrong that was done to Black people over 100 years ago, will not in this day and time move forward to protect our voting rights. That really says how much work we have to do, families, around our knowledge and our power and our action. But it occurs to me, Ed, you've given us a wonderful menu of the wonderful things that our museum, in collaboration with artists and other museums, that are about educating us. And people sometimes forget that with museums. It's interactive, it's engaging, and it's educational, or sometimes edutainment, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right, but could you just take a moment and explain really what is Juneteenth? We don't want it to end up being one of those things that people just say and are clueless what it symbolizes, if you will.
Yeah. Juneteenth, as we all know, it took 2.5 years. I mean, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863 by Abraham Lincoln and a host of others. And it took 2.5 years that on June 19th in 1865, troops had to go into Galveston, Texas, where more than 250,000 enslaved people were still working on plantations and giving up their free labor, to inform them and the slave owners that those that were enslaved are free. And that is significant. And so when we look at the 4th of July in 1776, as we celebrate Independence Day, we now see that June 19th, 1865, almost 100 years later, there seems to be another Freedom Day. There seems to be another Independence Day that African Americans, as we always say, Black history is American history.
Yes.
And therefore, we encourage people of all walks of life to participate in the commemoration of Juneteenth. This journey is a very tough journey, and that's what we do at the Charles H. Wright Museum. We invite people to come over and experience the African American journey so they can have a better understanding that once you understand, then the whole work around equity, inclusion, and diversity is a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Justice without having knowledge of the wrongs that have been done historically, but also the liberation struggles that have been done and the phenomenal work that Charles Wright and other, not to mention our National Museum, are continuing to do. Ed, thank you so much. And we're really looking forward to, if there's any information that can be put in the chat. Families, you heard it. There are wonderful family-oriented activities that are going to be occurring over the next several days. We want you to show up, grab your family members, and also to so-called professionals. Step down, because it's going to take all of us. We know that Black Lives Matter, but it's not just a slogan. It's about understanding the history of this country and the particular role and experience, particularly of African Americans, but certainly Indigenous people, Latinx, and others. But what was done historically to African Americans, from enslavement to Jim Crow to right now, is worthy of understanding through the lens of things like Juneteenth. Ed, thank you so much. And don't leave because we may have a question or two for you.
Okay.
So you also mentioned about your colleague that we also consider not only a colleague, but one of our really, really, really dear icons and messengers and griots, and to talk to us about how the city of Detroit and how in her role in particular, Rochelle Riley brings her journalism lens, her storytelling lens to opening up culture in a way that enables people to both learn, celebrate, rejoice, and be active for the future. Rochelle, could you come on and tell us all of the wonderful things that you are planning to do and our city is doing to acknowledge and to commemorate? But first off, welcome, sisters. A joy to see you.
Thank you so very much. It's a joy to be here, and I want to thank Ed for his kind words and you for yours. I am thrilled anytime I can partner the city with the Charles Wright Museum, because I'm with the city and I'm a board member at the Wright, and it is meet and right that that should happen. I can tell you that no one works harder than our Civil Rights, Inclusion, and Opportunity, or CREO department, and together to try and make sure that people understand that we know who we are in Detroit and how important Juneteenth is. There are so many things that are happening, and I want to send people to DetroitMI.gov. Let me say that slower because it's a tough one. DetroitMI.gov/CREO for a complete list. Or starting tomorrow, they can go to Detroit Arts and Culture, because that's what I call my page, which is easier. To learn about the things that we're partnering on. But I do want to mention just a few of them. But first of all, let me just tell you, thank you for the words that you just said, because it is so important for people to understand where we are right now. I left the newsroom 2 years ago, but I am still a writer by trade, warrior by necessity. I will not stop writing. I will not stop speaking out. I will not stop trying to make people understand that we are at a moment in history where we can really make a difference in how we live in America and what America can be, and has tried to be in numerous times in the past and did not get there yet. We have an opportunity to do that now. So it is so fitting that we across the country are celebrating this Juneteenth as a federal holiday, rather than something that some people celebrate and some people don't. And I can tell you there was a time where I was not really happy about celebrating that some folks found out late that they were free.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But I literally had to sort of, adjust my thinking cap and realize it's not about when they found out, it was about that they found out, and it was finally over everywhere. So let me tell you just about some of the things that are happening with the city, because I'm really excited. On Saturday morning, if you happen to be downtown, Lower Woodward will be closed again on the right side, because our eminent muralist, Dr. Hubert Massey, is joining students and some employees from General Motors, our partner in this project, to do the first annual repainting of the Power to the People mural, which got international attention when we first placed it there. It's the only major street mural that the city has in this across the city, but we're going to be doing 3 more thanks to the Kresge. But that's our Juneteenth activity for these kids. And GM is also hosting a luncheon for them to talk with Dr. Massey and these employees. They are artists at General Motors. People don't think about GM, it's a car company. No, there are artists there. They're a fashion designer. So they'll get to learn about those careers. Saturday at noon, we're going to be partnering with the Charles Wright on the Juneteenth treasure hunt. And I can tell you, I'm excited. The treasure is knowledge, as the Jack likes to say, but they have clues that you can find at the Wright, which will also be at DetroitArtsandCulture.com. And we're encouraging families across the city to do that. And you can do it right at your computer, or you can go out and drive around safely and find these clues. But we're encouraging families across the city to go out and be on the hunt. And after you finish, we want some of the children to write about or draw something they learned on this treasure hunt. And then Detroit Ace is going to feature some of them on the city website. And we might just have a prize or two for the really great ones. And then Saturday at 2 p.m., I am so thrilled to announce that my office is commissioning in partnership with the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, the TCF Center, and Cranbrook Art Museum, a regional memorial. I know when we did the Belle Isle Memorial last year, which also got international attention, there were so many people who could not participate. First of
Right.
all, the bad news is Belle Isle was just not big enough. It was for people from the city of Detroit on the city's island. There were 924 billboards out there just with that. But I promised people we would come back, and thanks to the Riverfront Conservancy and their team, which includes Rachel Frierson, and the TCF Center and their team, which includes Maureen Devine, and the Cranbrook Art Museum and Laura Mott, who's the curator, we are going to announce the Healing Wall. It's a memorial, but it's a healing installation where people will make memory packets where you can take bits of fabric and put keepsakes or write notes in and seal those up. And we're going to make one of the largest installations ever on the wall, on one of the walls of the TCF Center. So it's to try to free us from loss. This is not just for victims of COVID or because you lost someone in death. This is for any loss you experience, whether it was loss of a job, loss of a house, loss of a family member, loss of hope. What we want to do is come back as we're beginning to move forward and celebrate a freedom from all of that horrible feeling that we had in the past year. So we can move forward. So those are some of the things that we're doing from the ACE office, but CREO is going to have its amazing program that it does every year, which is the one that Ed mentioned earlier, where they have libation and drummers and all of these things that remind people of what African culture that has become African American culture means in America. And that starts at noon, and you'll be yeah, and you'd be able to find that on that same CREO page. And anytime you can't find something or you need to know something, just call me at 313-720-1016 and I will find it for you. But I'm excited by the fact that we are celebrating not just history, but moving forward and being free from pain, free from this idea that anybody is not as good as somebody else, and free from some of this past that has just made us less than we can be. We're going to be more from now on.
And we always have been more, have we not?
Always.
And this is just our opportunity to keep shining. And so I want to just reinforce folks, and if you would be kind enough, Rochelle, would you put the information for the website in the chat so people can take a peek there? Also, if there's any, I don't want your emails to blow up. They probably aren't as crazy as mine. But if there's an email where people can get more information would be great. So the website, and if there's another email. And we just have to let you know that all of us that work with children and families, we're so excited because this is an interactive opportunity. And so while I'm excited about it, there may be some questions that some of our viewers have. Either Cindy or Christine, do we have any questions for Rochelle or for Edward?
So this is really, I am personally incredibly excited about the scavenger hunt. So I just texted it to my husband and said, we have to do this tomorrow. So with my parents. So in any event, so it seems like the scavenger hunt is a family activity. We have a lot of folks that are on the call right now or watching us right now that have younger children. Are there any other suggestions or events that you want to share that are really directed towards younger children and families? And that's for Edward or Rochelle.
Well, I can tell you that I always, always, always want to encourage anytime you have a day that's a day of celebration or a day where you're away from work and school to take some time to read. There are so many books. If you literally just Google, and I love the Google, and just Google African American books for children, you will find dozens and dozens of beautiful books that can explain stories and history. I happen to have a book out called That They Lived. It's about icons who changed the world with what they did, but it features photographs of children as these icons so that we can remind children that every important person was once a child and every child can be inspired to be great. But that's what I would do. I mean, this is a time where, and don't do it at home where you've been cooped up. Go out to a park, go to a playground, sit with a book and just, drink some lemonade and read. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just like to pick up right there that, the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, as you know, is is all about that too, education. And we have books that we're giving out. 500 books will be given out to young people, so they can certainly go to theright.org to find out information on the date and time of when that's going to take place, and then all around African American ancestors and history and so forth. And so we're excited about that. But then we would also encourage people to take a look at Camp Africa, which is coming up. It is a 3-day per week camp that parents can bring their kids, register their kids to come to the museum and get a chance to come through the exhibits. I mean, we'll take them through the exhibits. We'll have, story time. We've got some great educators who will sit and tell them fantastic stories in animated ways. And so Camp Africa is going to be a fun way to do what I think Juneteenth is really going to evolve into: community engagement, education, and then support of African American owned businesses. And so we certainly would encourage people to certainly visit our website and learn as much as they can.
And can I just?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Raquel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I'm so excited by what Ed said, and I just literally was jumping up and down in the background with my camera off at them giving away those books. I would like to encourage every business owner, every community group, everybody who can afford to do something like that. There are so many kids who don't have libraries at home. My library when I was a little girl was a shelf that had books that my mom made sure were there. But the kids need to have these books in their home. I'm so excited that The Right is doing that book giveaway. If you're a company and you're looking for something to do for Juneteenth or for any day, do that. Give a group of kids a book, give a whole school of kids book. We can help you connect to people so that you can give kids books. Thank you, Ed, for that. I just want to make sure.
You're very welcome. No, and believe us, our online store, we've got a store filled with books. So even just to Rochelle's point, that they can go to the shop.theright.org or just go to theright.org and click on shop and buy books and then say, hey, I'm going to buy 20 of these books and give them away. So we do have a collection that they can actually go and purchase those books if they wanted to.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you raised Camp Africa, because I went onto the website to find out more about the scavenger hunt. That's how excited I am about this. And I noticed Camp Africa. And so we did drop I think we dropped the Wright Museum's website in the chat. And so I think those are all the questions that we have. And I think I'm really excited that we actually get to celebrate the independence of all people in America. And I think that's what Juneteenth does for us, is that is truly an Independence Day, right? Because that's when we were all free. So collectively. So thank you both so much. And I'm excited about the scavenger hunt.
I know, and not only scavenger hunt, but opportunities. So think about the dialogue that we can have with young people, and think about how much meaningful dialogue that we can have, because that's the other part that's exciting, that not only for our little people, but also for our teenagers as we talk about social justice and history. So Christine, I'm excited right along with you, and I'm going to pass it back to you so that we can continue with some in-depth conversations.
Yeah, and Jametta, I think the other thing that's nice about a scavenger hunt is you actually get to learn the history. And so many of us do not know, young, old, the deep, rich history of Detroit and the rich history of African Americans in Detroit. So that is truly why I'm excited, is to learn, right? That we sometimes the places we live, we just take it all for granted. And don't understand the history that exists here and how important that is to who we are, who all of us are as people. So anyway, I'm really excited.
And it's history. It's history, but history is even what happened last month or last year.
Yes.
So this is really going to be a treasure-filled activity. And you know what we should do? let's figure out how we bring forward some of the things that happened during Juneteenth back to our COVID-313 coalition, because it's great to have these commemorations, but how do we lift up the stories? How do we lift up some of the discoveries that people have? Because again, knowledge is power. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you both. Thank you both, Rochelle Riley and Edward Foxworth. We really, really appreciate both of you being here and sharing the information. And we'd love to have you guys back on again to give us more ideas of what we can do with our young people that's related to arts and culture and history. So thank you both so much. I am really excited because I have two wonderful colleagues that are on the town hall today, and I get to introduce them. So we have Sean Wilson from the Boys and Girls Club, and Anise Hayes from Atlantic Impact, and they are going to talk with us about the ARP funds, so the American Rescue Plan funds, and how those funds might be really important for out of school time programming. So Anise or Sean, who wants to go first? I'm picking Sean. So Sean, if you want to come in and if you could.
Ladies first. I was always taught ladies first.
Oh,
that doesn't apply.
All right, then Anise. I guess
you can go ahead, Sean. It's
I'm
okay in this case.
I guess I'm a lady, so maybe I should know that. Maybe I just okay. So, but
you're
Sean,
a modern lady.
I am a modern lady. That is true. I am a lady that was raised by a father that really wanted boys. So, in any event, Sean, could you give us a bit of an overview about the ARP funds and why does it matter to out of school time programming?
Yeah, so I think this is a great opportunity for the out of school time community to really leverage these one-time dollars to set a foundation for long-term sustainability, right? So I think we have to be smart about how we use these dollars, how to make sure that the dollars are used equitably so that, many organizations or all organizations get an opportunity to benefit from them. So large organizations, startups, small, I think that's really important. And then I think we have an opportunity to come together and kind of set a collective vision for what the outcome will be of these dollars. Because I think we can each talk about what we're doing individually, and we're all doing so much amazing work in our space. But if we're able to really synergize that to a few bullets of, if we work together, this will be the outcome. Then I think we have, amazing opportunity to really have some impact. And for me personally, I've been doing this work 25 years and, been trying to crack the code on how to really move the needle. And, we've talked about kids graduating on time or reducing teen pregnancy or disrupting the prison pipeline. I mean, there's a million things that we can talk about, but honestly, what I've learned over the years is that the root cause of all of those things is poverty. And, one of the things I really want to advocate for within the network is let's come together, focus on poverty, and economic mobility as the solution, and get really laser focused on what that means and how to move the needle around that.
Sean, and so I want to go to Anise, but I just want to highlight, after school programming or before school programming or programming that happens, on Saturdays, but is not connected necessarily to the K-12, the work that you do, Sean, at Boys and Girls Club, that work can make an impact in all of those areas that you talked about. And the cracking of the code, if I'm right, is like, how do you do that to a point where, we are able to serve enough young people that we can reach a tipping point. So Anise, do you want to share from your perspective why these funds are important, and just to give the folks that are watching this is the $400 million that the mayor has been talking with all of us about. And our folks, you know, Anise and Sean are wanting us to think through, like, how do we make sure that young people also have a pot of money that supports them. So go ahead, Anise.
Sure. So thanks for having me. To me, this really comes down to providing high quality services for youth and their families. As we know, there are a lot of youth in the city who really need strong after school programming. But unfortunately, a lot of organizations and providers simply just do not have the resources to sustain and scale the work that's needed for youth and families of the city. And so, as we know, Mayor Duggan has talked a lot about kind of his pillars for his plans for the American Rescue Plan funds. And one of those is around poverty and poverty alleviation. And so we know that the after school programs that we provide really tie into helping prevent poverty and really helping students, as Sean said, and youth really have economic mobility. But when organizations, when providers simply do not have the resources to be able to, scale their work, maintain their facilities, really provide high quality services, everyone suffers. And so we know that there are a lot of grassroots organizations out there that do wonderful work on very, very limited budgets. And so we want to be able to utilize these funds to support folks on the grassroots, folks in communities, folks on the Block Club, everyone who's really trying to support young people so that we have the resources necessary to really provide high quality programming for youth and their families here in the city.
So Anise, don't go off mute. I want to give you a chance to just share, and Sean, I'm going to ask you the same question. Can you both share a little bit about your organizations, because you both do really amazing work. So you could share a little bit about your organizations and what you all are doing this summer, and then we'll drop a link in the chat to let folks know where they can find you all, but also other organizations that are in their neighborhood that do really great work, just like you guys. But I want to give you a chance to toot your horns.
Sure. So I'm the executive director of Atlantic Impact, and we provide local and global experiences for youth that really focus on academic, economic, and professional mobility. So we do a lot around college and career readiness, and we're really focused on helping students really achieve their goals and be, as I mentioned, economically mobile. And so this summer, we are doing a lot around the skilled trades. We run cohorts of pre-apprenticeship programs for 18 to 24-year-olds that really focus on things like masonry, carpentry, heavy equipment, and really prepare young people for strong economic futures. We know that these are fields that pay typically over $15 an hour, and then they just go up from there. If you become a part of a union, the pay goes up even more from there. And so there are also careers that a lot of young people just don't have access to. And so we do a lot of work around career readiness through the skilled trades. We also have a college readiness program as well that we run during the summertime. And so that's Atlantic Impact.
Awesome, thank you. Sean, do you want to talk about the Boys and Girls Club?
Sure. So Boys and Girls Club, we're really, once again, committed to economic mobility, and we define that as the youth leaving our clubs career, startup, and homeowner ready. So career ready, meaning they can earn a livable wage. Startup, they can start a business, and then home ownership, because that's really the backbone of wealth building in our country. And we do that by really developing an ecosystem, right? So we do a 5-mile radius around our clubs, and we said this is our ecosystem. We're committed to economic mobility, and then we have different program partners, vendors, educational partners who we work with who have similar mindsets and similar goals. And so as an example, we have 42 program partners who are smaller nonprofit organizations, in many cases $500,000 or less in annual revenue, and we actually bring them in to deliver program services in our space. So a Detroit Hives, a Journey, those kind of program partners. And because of our model, we've been able to put $1.8 million back into our ecosystem or an average of about $1 million a year. And then much like Anise, we're really focused on that career piece. So we've started a series of industry clubs where we pay youth $10 to $13 an hour to go deep into an industry. We have a fashion and design industry club at Detroit is the New Black. We just launched a data science and risk management industry club. We're announcing a sports and entertainment industry club, and we'll be launching an urban planning and mobility industry club. All in all, by 2025, we'll have 14 industry clubs employing about 2,500 youth annually. So that's Boys and Girls Club.
Awesome. Well, you both do really amazing work, and there are other organizations that also are doing really amazing work. And so I'd ask that we drop the Discover Your Spark website into the chat so that parents or young people can go look for programs that they might be interested in this summer. The two that are here sound really awesome. I feel like I'd like to join, but I'm not young anymore. But before we go, I know that Sean and Anise have an ask of parents related to the $400 million. So Anise, do you wanna share that ask?
Sure. So we need parents, we need youth to come out and really advocate that funds from the American Rescue Plan go to supporting after-school programs. And so the simple way to do that is the mayor is having a series of town hall conversations. You can find those town hall conversations on the city government website. They are all over Zoom. All you have to do is show up. And tell the mayor and his team that we need funds, part of this $400 million of funding, to go to provide services and support for after school programming. It's completely necessary. We know that these funds will really help bolster and sustain and improve quality for youth programming across the city. And so your voices are just absolutely necessary in ensuring that this work continues to grow and thrive.
Yeah, and I would just add, at the end of the day, we can't have a silver bullet mindset when it comes to developing our youth. And so often, the majority of the resources will go to the education community, to the schools. And I'm a strong advocate for schools. I sit on DPS Foundation Board. I was elected to the PCCS, Plymouth Canton School Board. So I'm a strong advocate for education. But because of those experiences, I know that education cannot be a silver bullet. They cannot do everything. And so we have to make sure that we're matching those resources one-to-one if we really want to revitalize our neighborhoods and communities, because parents need to know that their kids are not only educated during the school day, but they're safe after school, on the weekends, and during the summer. So this is critical to really sustain the growth that we're starting to see in the city, and to make sure that Detroit really achieves the highest level that it can achieve for our youth and family. So please make sure you're vocal about supporting after programming.
That is the key, because the mayor really is listening to what residents are saying right now, and he is definitely taking stock. And so if you're a parent and after school programming is something you need and want for your child, please make sure you free up some time to let the mayor know that that's important to you. Well, Anise and Sean, I'm incredibly grateful for you as my colleagues, but I'm also incredibly grateful for the work that you do for young people every day in the city of Detroit. Thank you both so much for being here. And I am going to pass it over to Jametta. So Jametta.
Thank you. And I just have to echo your same appreciation, both for Anise and Sean, and consistently lifting up that term, economic mobility, because we are really not going to change the trajectory of our community and the lives of our children if we cannot create for them an economic future that lifts all of us so that we can thrive. I would like to add one other item, Anise and Sean. One of the things that Detroit Parent Network has asked also to occur, that not only is an out of school time fund established at MDE, and that it becomes part of the city of Detroit, a specific fund, but parents must be part of the co-design of that. And to the point, I think, Sean, you made such a good point, there needs to be a collaboration, because education cannot do it alone, nor can park and recreation with the city do it alone. It needs to be this collaboration, thoughtful, with parents, with community-based organization, with the school districts, both charter as well as public. And again, it needs to be a collaborative, and we need to make sure that our mayor understands that not only do parents want something like this, but all of the infrastructure here knows that we need it for our future. This is an extraordinary opportunity we have with the American Rescue dollars. So thank you, and we are happy to help out any way that we can as well. Thank you. And speaking of parents and how important and powerful they are in this moment in time, I think Rochelle said something really, really significant. And she mentioned how in this time, through COVID, through the pandemic, through the amount of hideous police brutality that we've witnessed, through the inequitable distribution of funds that we saw happen 4 years ago, and then now some attempt towards the right siding, more equitable distribution of funds, all of this has created for us new opportunities to think and move our children forward. And yet, COVID is still here. But it's important, parents, as you think about COVID, we want you to meet one of the parents that we think has been awesome. And not only thinking about COVID, but in her own experience, how can she keep herself safe, and how can she help keep her children safe? So I'd like to ask Kasham Houston, if you would come on screen with us, please. Hi, Kasham. So I've just kind of given you a little bit of a thing. Share with us what has moved you about COVID and the decisions that you've made, particularly about the vaccine for yourself and also your family.
So what moved me? Well, let me give you a little bit of background. I am a social worker, and I work in an adolescent clinic for youth who are already immunocompromised. And so we were definitely concerned with the impact of COVID on those individuals that I have been taking care of. So let me tell you a short story. When we realized the impact of COVID initially, and everyone was sent home. As a social worker in a clinic, I was sent home for 2 weeks, and I was right back in the clinic. We were right back seeing patients. In the process of me seeing patients myself, both of my adult daughters work in healthcare. I have a daughter in a nursing home that was actively working. I had another daughter in a hospital that was assigned to a COVID unit. I had a 1-year-old granddaughter and a 15-year-old son. And every day, to some degree or another, we were all exposed either directly or indirectly from each other to COVID. You can't imagine the mental toll, or maybe some of you can actually imagine the mental toll that that takes, and physical toll that that takes, coming in your back door, literally taking off all of your clothes, putting them in a garbage bag to put them in the washing machine. And this was literally a 7-day cycle. So when we were allowed the opportunity to be vaccinated, it was really not a question in my home. As a healthcare worker, I've been vaccinated since the very first round of vaccines were available. Following my daughters, my husband, and then just recently, my son, who just turned 16 on April the 20th, like 2 weeks after the vaccine became available to that age group. Why was it important? So I've heard everyone, and I'm so excited to be celebrating Juneteenth with you all, but we're at a pivotal time, right? So as we're celebrating freedom, we still have a lot of challenges to face regarding equality. And we would be remiss not to acknowledge that people of color, African Americans, still have an exorbitant amount of health disparities that plague us in Detroit, right? And there is a lot of apprehension in the African American community regarding vaccinations. So, using my voice and my platform in healthcare, I took that as an opportunity to be the example and for my family in total to be that example. It's challenging to be in a healthcare setting and advising other people to do something that you are not willing to do. And so I wanted to be able to proudly say that my family um, has been vaccinated. I wanted, when I'm talking to a 16-year-old and they're asking, do I know any young people that have been vaccinated? I can say my son was vaccinated. He was vaccinated, and it was so interesting that it wasn't something that I made him do. It was something that he wanted to do. It was something that he asked about doing. It was something that he was watching, the news to find out when it would be available and inquiring. Of course, he had questions. He's 16,
Right, exactly.
He's 16. Of course, he had questions.
So first off, thank you so much for sharing your personal story. I think people in some ways, because of the trauma of this time and the sunshine outside and how much we all want to get going, it's so easy, isn't it, for us to forget that reality. And so I'm also wondering if you don't mind, we're speaking of your son, Richard. So I had the joy of, you and I are connected through a lot of different places together, but also one of them is the work with Wayne Health, the mobile unit. And there was the wonderful health fair just a couple Saturdays ago in which I met your son. And so I would just love to be able to share, if I get a chance, if someone can connect me to be able to do a screen share, I would love to share a picture of Richard. But you guys can let me know. Can I do a screen share? Here we go. Perfect. Cool. So we'd love the audience to be able to see who is this wonderful young man, Richard Houston. And I have to share with you one of the things, Kashan, that he said, or maybe I'll ask you, do you recall or could you share why Richard himself said he wanted to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. He wanted to do his part in ensuring that COVID is eradicated in his community. He's very proud and he is very responsible. And so he said, it's my responsibility to do my part. And he looked at it as, one part to the total picture. If I do my part and encourage other people, my peers, to do their part, then we will be that much closer to, removing COVID from our community and decreasing the prevalence rates. So he felt like it was his responsibility, which was so amazing to me to understand that, he gets it. He gets that we all have a level of accountability for our actions, for our responsibility, and for our community. We're responsible for our community.
So, Kasham, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for lifting up to remind us that it's not only a personal story, it's not only a personal decision, but a sense of collective responsibility, that collectively by taking the vaccine, no different than people have internationally in decades past, whether it's to take the polio vaccine, measles, diphtheria, all of these horrible diseases that have affected the human race, we now can step up and say, I can take this vaccine because, like Richard, it's my personal responsibility to care and love on my community. Keishan, thank you for having a wonderful son, raising him like that, and blessings to you and all of your family. We'll see you out there. Continue to stop COVID. Thank you. Thanks so much. So I'll stop the screen share and get ready to pass the baton to another one of our co-moderators and colleagues in this work. And we're going to continue this discussion about health and the reality of COVID. So joining now is Rajeshri Bhatia. It's always a joy to have you, my friend, in this work.
Thank you, Jametta, and thank you to all of our presenters for sharing this wonderful information in this celebration. I'm here to talk a little bit about the health aspect of COVID. So I'd love to invite our friends from the Detroit Health Department. Looks like we have Hannah and Janaea. Are you there also? Joining us today. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Great to have you. So I have a couple of questions for you just to sort of get us started. And then did you have information to share? Or are we all just going to do question and answer today?
Well, I would love to introduce Tanea because I will be departing from the health department, but still doing the community work. You are in fantastic hands with Tanea. She is phenomenal. She's a Detroiter and she just lights up when she speaks to the community. So you guys are in really good hands.
Great. Tanea, welcome. We're excited to have you. You have big shoes to fill, but it sounds like you are just the woman for the job. So welcome to our coalition here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the introduction, Hannah. I'm excited. Can't wait.
Great. Well, wonderful. Well, then let's start a little bit of, Hannah, are we okay going to question and answers or questions, or do you have something you want to share on your own?
She has the presentation, but we can also just jump into questions and answers, whatever she's comfortable with. I'm going to let her take over the show.
All right, Janelle, why don't you go ahead with the slides because Cindy's got them up, and then we'll get to questions when you're done.
Awesome. We always like to start off with just giving current data. So if we can go to the next slide, the current data for right now for 6/15, we just want to say that the positivity rate for Michigan is down 1.9%. For Detroit, 1.9% as well. That's wonderful. But when we go to the next slide, we want to look at only 18. If you look at the green boxes right in the middle, only over 1,800 scheduled vaccines right now. We need to encourage our Detroiters to get vaccinated. If we look at the first line there, only 36.6 of Detroit have been fully vaccinated. When we look at the other numbers, Macomb, Oakland, we're looking at 50 and going up. Michigan altogether is over 55%, and that's why our governor was able to lift some of our restrictions like the mask. If we can go to the next slide, please. And then also list some of our side effects. People are afraid of the side effects. Side effects are not bad, but side effects help us know that our immune system is responding. Our side effects, some redness at the injection site, some swollen lymph nodes at that same arm, some tiredness, maybe a headache, muscle and joint pain, chills, nausea, vomiting, and fever. But these last a couple of days. As a healthcare professional, we want to make sure that we're preventing people from being severely ill or dying. To me, that's worth it. They don't last, and everyone doesn't experience these side effects. So if we can go to the next slide, I just want to mention 2 myths because we have myths that come up every single day. The 2 latest ones, I don't know if you guys have heard about the shedding. So if a person gets a vaccine, they're saying that those around them that has not had the vaccine can give viral shedding and basically give them COVID. That's not true. The other one, you're magnetic. That's not true either. I have been vaccinated. I'm not walking past my refrigerator and magnets are not flying at me. Not at all. Can we go to the next slide, please? There's 3, I just want to remind everyone, there's 3 vaccines right now, the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. They're all 100% of being effective from preventing serious illness or death from COVID. And that's the most important part. If we can go to the next slide, please. mask updates. So the CDC and our governor have given mask information. Fully vaccinated people, you can resume without a mask. Be mindful of businesses regulations. Follow local and state updated regulations. Unvaccinated people can be outdoors without a mask, but they must wear a mask indoors and social distance. Me as a healthcare professional, I'm encouraging when you're around people, because you don't know about immune systems, you don't know, and be careful with the children because they can't get the vaccines yet. Be mindful of that. Wear a mask just in case. If you don't know, wear a mask. That's the safest thing we can do for everyone. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Vaccine eligibility. Anyone 12 years and up can receive a vaccine. It's not, they've made it really, really simple. You can walk up to our vaccine sites and we have a number. You can schedule it. That lovely number, 313-230-0505. And next slide, please. Thank you. How to make an appointment. We just talked about that, but there's rules for the vaccination for the minors. They must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. The parent or guardian must show ID. You have to show who you are. They must sign a consent. Anytime we're doing anything with youth, we make sure we sign a consent form. With the Good Neighbor program, and we'll talk about that on the next slide, anyone bringing a youth 12 and up to 17 will not receive anything as a good neighbor, because we don't want someone bringing a whole busload of children thinking they're going to get $50 per child. We want to vaccinate. We want to encourage the vaccination for the children, but just not that way. If we can go to the next slide, please. COVID-19 vaccinations. The new rollout for the homebound residents came out Monday, and you can still call us to schedule it at 313-230-0505. So now we're able to reach our homebound residents without an issue. We're working with the Detroit Area on Aging and other partners, and we have, I believe, over 120 nurses that are able to come out and assist. So if we can go to the next slide. We talked about the Good Neighbor program that's still available. If you know someone, if you know someone who's getting their first vaccination, call that number, register as a good neighbor. They'll give you a $50 MasterCard. Who can beat that? And you can do that all day long if you want to. That's a quick way to make some money, pass it along. Go to the next slide, please. That's a map of all of our locations, and all of these can be found on www.detroitmi.gov. Next slide, please. And we have this text number. If you text your address, this number here, it'll give you the 3 nearest locations so you can go get vaccinated, or anyone else. Take down this information. A lot of people need it. Just give it to someone. If we have it, there's access. And you can also give them our number. If you can go to the next slide. There's nurses on hand. I'll leave that one up. There's nurses on hand at the Detroit Health Outreach Center. All the time. We have a call line, and that number is 313-876-4000. And we'll make sure we put this information in the chat. Contact us if they have questions. You push 3 and you can talk to us. We are the community nurses. People need to know that. We're not just here. We're here to support. We're here to educate. We're here for you. We're here to be advocates. So the way we can get through this pandemic is through the vaccines, hand washing, social distancing, still wearing a face mask, and doing what we're doing right now, collaborating, communicating. This is so important. Can we go to the next slide? And that's just most of our information. I'm going to put this information in the contact that way. And I would encourage everyone to copy and paste it, put it in your phone, and we can hand it off and give it to anyone who needs it. That way you have it with you. And that's that collaboration we were talking about. But that's all I have as far as the slides. And if anyone has any questions, so we can give as much information as possible. That was just a simple update.
Great, thank you so much. It's so helpful to see that information in that really easy to understand graphic way, and really appreciate that you really shared some of the numbers with us. Speaking about the numbers, and you mentioned that there are so few future vaccinations scheduled and that we're still lagging behind the rest of the state in terms of percentages. So talk to us a little bit about what you're doing differently and how you are working to get those numbers up.
So right now we are going out to the community. And when I say going out, I mean, we have a big van and we're looking at different locations, different neighborhoods. And when we go out and we do like a survey and find out where are the people we're going to meet, why the hesitancy, going out educating, giving them information, basically doing what we do every day, just being available out in the community, and then talking to people, encouraging people, because I think once we educate people and give them the right facts, there's a lot of myths, yeah, but if we give them the right information, let's see what happens. But that's what we're doing.
And when you reach some of these folks, right, and you start learning, what are some of the reasons that you're hearing about for the hesitancy? Is there, how are you sort of hearing that information? Then what are you doing to sort of, overcome it?
So I usually let everybody know right off. Okay, let's talk one-on-one. What's your question? I would say most of the time I'm hearing still microchip, DNA, what's in the vaccine, how did it come out so fast? And we're just giving the facts from that. We're just educating them. It's not mRNA, it's nothing new. Vector system is nothing new. And we give them data, we give them information. As far as the shedding, the myths, we kind of give them, because we also do research. We do the research, we give them the information, the correct information, and also educate them on where to find the correct information. I think that's important too. Like Hannah, Jasmine, Japari, we go out and we just, let's talk. Let's do that. But also I give them our number, because I think it's important to let them know, hey, I'm here for you. I'm your nurse. We're talking, I'm your nurse. Call me. I have people calling the line saying, hey, is T there? Yeah, because I need you to, if you have a question or you have someone else that has a question, call me. Let's talk.
So do you think people respond well then when it's that personal connection, right? That idea that they can talk to you and hear from you, dispelling these myths. I mean, that's so important. So your point in your presentation about share this information with someone, it doesn't have to be just you, right? I think that personal connection makes a lot of difference. When people hear from a person, they tend to be a little more trusting. And I think it also helps when people say, I've been vaccinated, I'm not magnetic, I don't have this fear. It helps to have that person-to-person connection. And I think the information that you shared in your point is well taken. When you think about, as moving into the summer and into fall, what concerns do you have, or what do you anticipate will happen as we get to different percentages of the vaccination, rates? So if we can raise that a little bit, what changes, and kind of just give us a little bit of a preview of what starts to happen as the numbers go up in Detroit specifically.
Well, with the numbers, if they decide, and that's what we're trying to prevent, the numbers from going up. That's why we want to continue with the education. That's why we want to continue to reach the community. We want to continue to raise the numbers for vaccinations and keep that. The numbers right now are really good. They're excellent. As people are outside and unmasking and grouping together, we have to, and like I mentioned before, if you don't know who's around you, wear a mask, because that's important. We have to keep shedding that. But also with unvaccinated, I always let people know, be careful. Detroit right now is really low on vaccination rates. So protect those around you. Protect yourself. Because as these numbers go up, our restrictions come down, we see more problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
I was going to say
positivity rates going up.
I was going to say too, if you're thinking about science standpoint, when you have this low level of vaccination, it's actually one of the most dangerous times to be an unvaccinated individual, because we're seeing the alpha, delta, beta, and epsilon variant. They're now all the former B117. And those mutations are a lot more infectious. They have what we call a higher R value. So when it's really dangerous if you're unvaccinated, because one, the virus has the chance to mutate past the current vaccines. So we may need boosters in the future. But also, if you get COVID-19, you are more likely to be sicker if you're unvaccinated. So it's really important in this time to get our numbers up to that community immunity, and do it for your neighbor, do it for your children. That's going to be the best thing that we can do.
Hannah, you read my mind as far as where I was going to go next. This is great. Could you elaborate a little bit on the connection between mutations and unvaccinated population? Like, how are the two connected? Why is it such a dangerous combination?
So when we're thinking about a mutation, mutations are natural, in a virus. It's the natural course. The way mutation works is the virus changes a little bit. And then if it's more infectious and it does better, it survives, it's going to have the chance to multiply in our bodies more and make more people sick. So we worry about these mutations because they can be a much stronger strain of COVID-19 than what we call the wild type Wuhan virus that originally came out of COVID-19. So as we have vaccines, there may be the one virus that learns how to bypass a vaccinated individual. And that's what we worry about. So by getting everyone vaccinated, we eliminate COVID in our community so it doesn't have the chance to replicate, and it doesn't have the opportunity to create those really harmful mutations. So that's kind of what's going on with the mutations.
Okay, so by vaccinating ourselves, we kind of eliminate ourselves from being a host, a place where the vaccine can go and, do its evil vaccination mutation thing and become something different.
Yeah,
so
and if you think about a community with no host, there's nowhere for that virus to go. So it's what we call eradicated, which has happened with smallpox and other different conditions that we've treated with vaccines. So we would love to get to that place where there's nowhere for this vaccine or this virus to go. It just stops with one individual, which would be amazing.
Yes.
That's great. Can you speak to the sort of differences in communities that have lower vaccination rates, and is there a higher rate of sickness in those communities, or sort of what's the how does those two factors fit together?
So there definitely is some. If you look at the Michigan variants that T pointed out, or the Michigan numbers, the area of Washington County, which is around Ann Arbor, they have a very high vaccination rate, about twice the rate as Detroit as a whole. And their positivity rate is 0.9% compared to Detroit's 1.9%. And so we're seeing a lot less community spread there, lower COVID-19 vaccination number, or lower COVID-19 infection rates. And they're also keeping the hospitals open, because if you have less COVID-19 infections, you have less hospital beds occupied. So that's when we see COVID getting really dangerous, is when our healthcare staff is overwhelmed. So we want to keep those numbers as low as possible.
Great. And final question, what's your prediction for fall? How do you think we look as we get into the fall in Detroit here? And the reason we're talking fall is when the weather changes, fall is when school starts, fall is, when we come back together in other kinds of ways and we might now. What's your prediction as far as fall goes?
So we're optimistic at the health department, but the only way we can stay optimistic is that everyone gets vaccinated. We saw last summer a pattern where COVID-19 infection rates fell. We saw that pretty great trend because we have outdoor activities and COVID doesn't spread well outdoors because of the good ventilation. What we worry about is that if we still have this steady stream of infection and we all go back inside and we're not vaccinated, then we still get that community spread again. And we start this cycle of, having big peaks, having our hospitals occupied. So if we get vaccinated, when we're all inside again, it doesn't matter because we all have protection and we all don't have the ability to host COVID-19 because that's one guest at the party we don't want to invite.
All right, so we want to vaccinate so that in the fall, when we have our indoor gatherings, we do not have any version of COVID at our parties. Otherwise, we are taking the risk of them again being an uninvited guest into our lives. Ladies, thank you so much. As always, it's a pleasure to have you. Keep up the great work. Hannah, we will miss you. Best of luck in your new venture. And we look forward to having you back on future town halls. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Jametta, who will take us to our closing. Thanks again for a great segment. Jametta, all you.
Yes, thank you. And Hannah, it has been a joy to have you part of the program. And Tanea, we are equally joyful and excited to have you join us. And thank you for willingness to have your personal telephone number be there to make those kind of connections, because we know it's all about relationships. And speaking of relationships, we want our families to have a relationship with knowledge and a relationship with power. So we have a couple of asks for you as well as information. So one is be aware that Chaz, which is one of our awesome federally qualified health clinics in Southwest Detroit, they are doing a family vacation campaign. It's $15 gift cards. Make sure that you contact them. Now keep in mind, this is an opportunity for you to get healthy and get your vaccination, because Chaz is here all year long to make sure that you and your family are healthy. But at this point in time, right now, we need people to step up and please become vaccinated. We'd also like to share with you that they are doing a Youth Ask the Docs. It's going to be an Insta Live event on June the 28th. That means families, particularly in Southwest Detroit, get your young people to sit right down, grab their phone or sit in front of a screen and ask physicians their questions, because we need our young people 16 and up also to be vaccinated. And keep in mind, families, that we are anticipating the vaccine will be available for younger children. So that's a great opportunity to even get your 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-olds to ask their questions. And somehow I think our children are going to have a better vaccination rate than some of us adults. As maybe they're not as prone to, as Tanea said, the myths. We're also letting you know that 482 Forward has launched a campaign. We've been showing you their community voting tool. This is really important. Everything that we're doing, we recognize how important the vote is and how we have to protect our votes, because that's protecting our rights. We want you to make sure that you're also using their voting tool for the school district and the state. And if you could, let's make sure that we have that information in the chat. That will be, just take a minute or two for you to complete that survey. Again, that's 482 Forward, needs your input that will be given to the school districts about how the millions of dollars that are coming in and have come into the state for schools, how should that be used? Parents, families, we need to hear from you. We also want to let you know there are redistricting events that are coming up. That term gerrymandering, keep in mind that there is a minority in this country that is controlling the outcomes of the majority. And that is by using a system to deny people rights by changing not only their access to voting, but also how they vote and who is in what district. This is our important time period. We want to thank the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation. They are holding a redistricting town hall, June the 18th from 5 to 8 p.m. Families, please make note of that. This is really critical. We will not change things around in the state of Michigan, Arizona, Mississippi, or anywhere else unless we combat and change the redistricting that has disenfranchised so many of us. There's some other things we want to remind you of. So one, please make sure that you are lifting up Juneteenth by using books and information and celebrations, and look at the Charles Wright Museum African American History site for that. You can also go to the Art, Culture, and Education website, part of the city of Detroit, to see some of the really engaging family activities that are being available, from campus marches, movies, to activities. And don't forget the treasure hunt. There are two other things that are really special about this month in June. One, also, this is National Pride Month. And for many of you, you're wondering, well, where do I go or I get information, whether I'm an ally, whether I myself want to express who I am. Also, but in the context of voting, I'd love to be able to share really quickly with you is, yes, thank you so much, is that the LGBT Detroit is convening a Reclaim the Vote drive. Please join them at Palmer Park, Saturday, June the 19th, from noon to 3 o'clock. Again, voting matters. And while we're doing all of these really important social justice, treasure hunts, history, you know what? We need to remember that it's Black Music Month. And in Black music, we are celebrating everything from the folk tales of Odetta, to the songs of Billie Holiday, to the temps, to modern music, to jazz, to everything. Black music has changed the world. So with that, we thank you so much. We want you to help change the world. And thank you, all of our families that are part of the COVID313 Coalition. And speaking of the 313 Coalition, would everyone please come on screen, because this is how we do it. We do it through collaborating, communicating, and just loving on each other to give knowledge and power to our community, right? That's what we're talking about. Everyone, take care, and thank you so much.